Your live interactive weather authority coverage will begin shortly. Your live interactive weather authority coverage will begin shortly. Your live weather authority coverage starts right now.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here with us on a special edition of Friday Favorites because we've got a hurricane coming.
I know. No fun stories to talk about today. It's all about Hurricane Lee arriving tomorrow. Big impacts are expected across the state with waves and very strong winds. Likely to see a lot of power outages, unfortunately, for many of us tomorrow.
It's just crazy. You know, we've been talking about this all week and even since like last week.
Yeah.
We've been tracking it and sort of honing in on where is this actually headed. And then it turns out Maine's sort of the only New England state that's actually going to feel some effects from this.
Exactly. Yeah. Lee has been a named storm for about 10 days now. And we knew probably about 12 days ago that it was going to become a hurricane. We didn't know it was going to hit Maine 12 days ago, but we had an idea it was going to be heading in this general direction. So yeah, for about a week and a half now, we have been looking at Lee very closely. And now here we are, day before we're getting some hurricane impacts. I've checked off pretty much all the boxes now, I feel like, in Maine weather.
Right.
Hurricane, tornadoes, snowstorms, extreme cold. And yeah, now here we go with the hurricane on the list.
And everyone's preparing. And we have, the radar right here kind of looking at exactly what we're seeing right now when it comes to Lee. Want me to click on this?
Exactly. Yes. So here's a current look at Lee right now, a Category 1 storm. I'll see what you guys are saying. Partly sunny here in sunny Saco. Yeah, it's a nice morning out there.
In Auburn.
Yeah. Enjoy the beautiful morning that we're seeing out there. It's going to be, it just feels so amazing out there.
Oh, and yesterday was absolutely stunning. And then today feels like a crisp, nice fall day. And you almost can't believe that tomorrow it's going to be a hurricane. What's so interesting, though, is that it's kind of going to be more like a nor'easter, right?
More like a nor'easter, yeah. And calm before the storm, a perfect way to put these past couple of days. I mean, it truly is the calm before the storm tomorrow. So let's take a look at this track of Lee. It's going to be moving, of course, to the north, making landfall tomorrow on Nova Scotia. Now, a couple of days ago, of course, we were really getting concerned because it had shifted much closer to Maine. This has been a very complex forecast with a lot of different players. But now, yesterday, we were able to lock that forecast down, and things have not changed since yesterday, which is great news in terms of impacts. We've known what we were going to be expecting now for pretty much 2 full days, which is really, really good news. So so we're expecting the worst of it tomorrow. Looks like 6 a.m. to about 6 p.m. will be the worst conditions. This is a rare event here, tropical storm warning up and down the entire Maine coastline. It's been a very long time since that's happened.
Were you saying like 15 years or something like that?
15 years. We had a hurricane watch, and I think it's still in place for far down east Maine. That was the first one in 15 years. Yeah. And there has not been a hurricane watch in the National Weather Service Gray Service area, which covers all of us in southern Maine, in 32 years, since 1991. And this storm didn't get to that point. So looks like we'll be waiting for another one to get a hurricane watch here in far southern Maine. So yeah, it's big impacts tomorrow. Lots of wind, lots of waves. Luckily, not a lot of rain. So there are some plus sides to this storm. We are at least avoiding the very, very worst of it because it is going further to the east. But again, big problems just because it's so huge. It's an enormous storm.
That's what's so interesting, because when you see the size of it and you almost think like it's not even really touching Maine,
right?
But it is, because it's so massive.
Exactly. That's why the cone can be a little bit deceiving at times. It just shows where that center of the storm is going to be. But of course, the impacts spread over a much bigger area. All right. So people are asking
all about the wind, I feel like.
What does it look like for Auburn? Chelsea, you're under a tropical storm warning in Auburn, Maine. That is not a common thing to happen. We're expecting winds up to 40 miles per hour there. It does look like pretty elevated power outage risk just because of how stressed and how weakened the trees are out there across the state. Winds in OOB. Sherry's asking about OOB. Probably a little stronger than Auburn.
Along the coast.
Right along the coastline. And you have that big coastal erosion concern. Unfortunately, the waves can really eat away at our beaches here. So that's what we are expecting there. But Sherry, also 40 to 50 miles per hour there in Old Orchard Beach. And this is an amazing point, Sherry, that you're making here. Should we go there and secure things? absolutely would recommend it.
Yeah.
If you've got stuff that's loose, that's outside, a lawn
Furniture,
chair,
yeah.
something like that, your trash cans, maybe even
Yeah.
hold them close to the house, put them in the garage for tomorrow, because you'll want those things secured in the wind. Wow, we got a lot of people jumping in this morning.
Good.
Yeah, definitely a lot of people wanting to get prepared.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're not even gonna get that much rain. I think that's gonna
It's true.
surprise a lot of people
Right.
tomorrow. It's gonna be a pretty dry storm here, which is good. Rockland area. All right, Mona Lisa, you got to batten down the hatches in Rockland. You're going to see winds up to 60 to even 65 miles per hour there. Almost a guarantee that most of the Rockland area will lose power at some point tomorrow.
Right. And that's what Katie says, how likely will power outages be in Biddeford? I mean, it is like inland areas, it's tough to tell.
Right.
Biddeford, I mean, it's a good chance, right?
Very good chance. Yes. Now we're hoping that here in far southern Maine and in the Portland area up towards Lewiston, Augusta, we keep the outages pretty scattered. It looks like the mid coast down east, we're going to see widespread outages there. But if we can keep our outages more scattered, everybody's restoration times will be much, much better. So yeah, I'd say there is a high likelihood, Katie, that you probably will at some point tomorrow, but hopefully not for a long period of time. Debbie's asking about Bath in the mid coast as well. Also likely to see some of those stronger winds there. Not too bad up in Caribou, Presque Isle, far northern Maine, luckily avoiding the worst of it. In fact, the mountains up towards far northern Maine, you're getting lucky with this one. Not a whole lot expected there. Same in Waterville. There will be some gusty winds. I couldn't rule out maybe a rogue power outage there, but shouldn't be too bad. Standish, yeah, you're just within that zone, just enough to where there will likely be some. Again, hoping to keep them scattered. If there's scattered outages, that means that a lot of people will not lose power. So hopefully we can just keep them on the scattered side of things, and that way we can get power restored pretty quickly. Boothbay Harbor, another area that's likely to see some big impacts, big waves there in Boothbay, Sharon, and as well as the strong winds up to 60 miles per hour in the Boothbay area. Sanford area up to 40 miles per hour, Hope. And you really think the leaves will remain on the trees? Yes, because it's not fall just yet.
Right, they haven't turned yet.
They haven't turned yet. So there's nothing, they're really still
stuck on there.
Stuck on there. They're
hanging on.
They're hanging on for dear life here tomorrow.
Don't let me go.
Yeah, don't let me go. Yeah, so the leaves are going to stay on the trees, and that's a big part of the reason why the impacts are expected to be so big, because of all of those leaves. They're basically sails. They're catching the wind, could easily pull down branches.
And then you have the roots trees and the wet ground from all of the rain we got over the summer.
Right. And I remember a story we were talking about a couple weeks ago in the end of August was that the leaves were turning in the Portland area and all across the state because of that rain stress. And that's just, and I was thinking during that time, I was like, if we got a hurricane in September, it would be not a good thing, just because the trees do not need any more water, and certainly not any wind. South Portland, because you're right along the water there, does look like we will at least lose probably some power there in South Portland, especially those waves. Again, I can't stress out enough the coastal damage here from the waves. Cannot wait for snow. Couple more months.
Cameron.
Cameron, we've got a little bit of summer just left to go.
Okay, can we just say, let's real quick, next week, gorgeous. And even Sunday, so we get through this pretty quickly. We just have to get through some power outages, some damage, some erosion, things like that.
Exactly. So we do get a really nice treat next week. So if you're listening right now, you're watching us, just know that beyond tomorrow, every single day pretty much looks amazing next week, with warm temperatures in the day, cool, crisp nights, dry air. That's the fall weather we've been begging for, and it's finally on the way, it looks like next week. Katie, Warner, I can't remember where she said she was earlier.
Biddeford,
so many comments now.
I
Biddeford,
believe.
Biddeford, Katie. It depends where you are in Biddeford, Katie. If you don't want to lose power, maybe go stay with someone who's in an area that's less likely to lose it. But as I feel like as long as
charge your electronics, your phone, and all of those things. Make sure you have some food that you don't necessarily have to cook. Maybe
Exactly, like easy meals, that sort of thing. And the good news is that the weather is it's not brutally cold. It's not brutally hot after the storm. So if we do lose power, the nights will be cool and comfortable. The days will be warm. It's not going to be unbearable conditions to live without power next week.
The winds, are going to die down later in the evening tomorrow. And then Sunday looks gorgeous. So, I mean, worst case, I would hope that they'd be able to get these cleared up by Sunday.
I would hope that by Sunday evening, we see power outage numbers, whatever they end up being, dropped quite a bit. So Billy is asking about the Auburn area, expecting wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Pretty good chance you're going to see a lot of power outages up in the Auburn area. And again, mainly just because of those leaves still being on the trees. If this was January right now, and we were talking about 40 to 50 mile per hour winds,
nothing.
non-issue.
Think about blizzards that we deal with and trees aren't coming down.
Yeah, we get 60, 70 mile per hour winds in some blizzards. And yes, that causes power outages and lots of issues in its own regard. But without the leaves, the damage is a lot less from those kind of winds. So Limerick area, York County, you are going to get hardly a drop of rain, Brittany. It's going to be a very dry day for you tomorrow in York County, but it will still be windy. Could still be some power outages there. Brunswick, also likely to get some gusty winds up to 50 miles per hour. Michaela, Tanya asking about Portland. Great question, Tanya. Also expecting those gusty winds up to 40 to 45 miles per hour. Could be some scattered power outages, although especially in the outskirts of Portland. I feel like downtown Portland usually, because a lot of the power lines are underground, it does help with that a little bit. But outskirts of Portland, especially outer Washington, Deering neighborhood, North Deering, definitely could see some power outages tomorrow. Lost video for a minute. What about OOB, Sherry? OOB, likely to see some big impacts. Wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour. The bigger concern, I think, there is the erosion and the huge waves along the coastline. Asking about Jay, a little less of an impact there, Rachel. Maybe a better chance you don't lose power tomorrow up in the Jay area. Look at all these comments. Wow. A lot of people asking about what they're expecting. Cameron asking about Bar Harbor. That's probably one of the hardest hit areas in the state. Very strong winds. There's still a hurricane watch there, which means could potentially see gusts up to 75 miles per hour in Bar Harbor. That would certainly cause a lot of damage. The waves, the wind, the heavy rain in Bar Harbor, more of an issue. Again,
which is not a factor in other areas.
Right. Here in Portland, I mean, we'll be lucky to get a quarter inch of rain tomorrow. It's really not going to be a whole lot of wet weather, but it will be windy and we'll still get those waves. Now, if you're Rockland eastward, a lot more rain is going to fall. So that's where we could have some flooding concerns. It's been so wet lately. We just don't have any room for more rain. So very thankfully, most of us are not getting a ton of it.
And speaking of Bar Harbor, it just reminds me of, we were talking earlier this week about the event in Acadia years ago. I forget if it was 2009
2009 Hurricane Bill was passing by offshore. And that was a storm that brought really no direct impacts to Maine. There was no rain. There was no real crazy wind. But because of those waves, a lot of people were, Thunderhole in Acadia, one of the biggest attractions there.
Going there to watch the waves, taking the sights. People like to do that during storms, but it was tragic for the group.
Yeah, one person died, 12 people swept out to sea. That was a poignant, perfect reminder of why you want to just at least be very, very cautious, very careful, and keep a healthy distance away from the ocean.
The waves.
Yeah, I mean, the power of these waves is going to be on a magnitude way greater than just like a normal, choppy day.
Right?
Yeah, along the coastline. So, yes, Bangor area does look like it will get some strong winds. I want to zoom through the storm tracker here to get to the wind map, so that way everyone can see their area better here for the wind speeds. Again, Sunday. Look at Sunday afternoon, 80 and sunny. I mean, wow, beach day. Might still be a little choppy at the beaches, but just still going to be very, very nice. So we can get outside on Sunday, especially if you don't have power.
Incredible the difference. Right.
Might as well chill out outside.
Leave.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right, everybody, here is your wind speed map that we've all been waiting for. Take a look, everybody. Sanford, Limerick, Portland, Saco, Old Orchard Beach, Biddeford, South Portland, Cape Elizabeth, Windham, Gorham.
He's out of breath, folks.
There you go, Naples. All those locations, 40 to potentially up to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. Also, Lewiston, Auburn, Sabattis, Augusta through the mid-coast up towards Bangor. Again, 40 to potentially up to 50 miles per hour. Now, the strongest winds. Someone asked about Rockland earlier. Rockland, you're in that 50 plus mile per hour zone. A lot of models throwing out some 60 mile per hour winds for Rockland. That would cause a lot of power outages. And I'm expecting, almost guaranteeing at this point, widespread outages mid-coast and down East Maine. I mean, that's almost just a given at this point, since that's where Lee will be making its closest approach.
I imagine that's where CMP are going to be sending some of those crews sort of ahead of the storm, because they said they're bringing in some extra crews. They're closely monitoring. Where are we thinking it's going to be the worst, so that they're already there. So then when they're kind of a little one step ahead of the game.
I had someone text me yesterday that they were driving south on the turnpike and they just saw dozens of power crews heading from Maine or from out of Maine into the state. A lot of other states are sending some resources up here as well. So all of this help, of course, President Biden declaring Maine a state of emergency.
That's the other big news that we do want to share with you. This is a huge deal. I'm going to try to, are we good here? Can I pull up this article? So we'll share the screen again and we'll click on this. So this, I came in this morning and this was major news that broke. basically yesterday, Governor Mills had declared a state of emergency for Maine because of the storm and all the impacts expected, power outages, coastal erosion, things like that. And 11 o'clock last night, we got word that President Biden approved the emergency declaration, which basically means that federal funds are there, ready to go based on, what happens, what kind of damage we see, et cetera. And it sounds like Governor Mills responded this morning, praising, President Biden. Thank you, for approving this. It's interesting because I feel like a lot of times we get these disaster declarations after the fact, but this is sort of a preemptive move, which is smart.
And all of these little things, these little factors, power crews coming into the state, emergency declarations by the governor and the president, all these little things are going to just help power to get restored quicker. Right. So let's just hope that this helps us a lot more. Hopefully by Sunday afternoon, a lot of us have power back again.
Yes. And also worth noting, this is also new this morning. Governor Mills is going to the Maine Emergency Management Agency's Emergency Operations Center at 2 o'clock this afternoon to be briefed. I haven't seen our, planner for the day. I'm assuming we're going to be there covering that as well. And we'll have the latest on, what MEMA says to her, I'm sure their concerns are your concerns,
exactly.
And, briefing her on what to expect. And then that will also play into what kind of maybe federal funding we get in response to all of the damage.
And of course, that will eventually just come down to how much damage that we are ending up seeing here. Hopefully it's not too bad for everybody tomorrow. Hopefully we can just make it through with some power outages and some downed limbs and trees that's expected, but hopefully without any major damage.
Yes. And here's the other big story we've been covering the past couple days. Johnny Matthew was there. Can I turn off these? No. Well, maybe.
I like.
Seen multiple times. I don't know. Marinas are getting ready to go, and Johnny had a great. I don't know if he has a shot. Well, this is all the work that they're doing to get all of these boats. He was there this morning, and there were no boats. It was almost like a ghost town at this marina because they had cleared everything out. Which
it's so crazy because
O'Connor Chevrolet has a giant selection of
weeks ago. I had paddleboarded out to Fort Gorgeous, and just the difference thinking about that. There were so many boats out that day. It was a beautiful day. Like all of those boats have to get out of the water for this storm.
It's been a scramble for sure for the past couple of days. And some people kind of like, oh, are we gonna, do we want to just risk it? This was our coverage this morning. There's Johnny. So here, this is a really cool, this was early this morning. It was still dark out there, but you can see sort of the vantage point. The photographer, Nate, was like up above and zooming out. So you can see totally empty. And this time, 2 days ago, that was full.
All the slips were probably full. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really smart. And that's been the message from anyone, in the marine community is get your boat out of the water because it also can damage the docks too if you leave your boat.
And that's the thing. It's not really the boats that they're worried about. It's that all of the boats tied up to the dock together when they're all rocking different ways and being blown around. Yeah, it's a ton of force. So rip the docks apart and then all the boats end up getting damaged. So yeah, you definitely want to get those boats out of the water. These 10 to 20 foot waves we're expecting, not something you want to be playing around with your expensive property.
No,
that's for sure.
Absolutely. I wanted to bring, no, that's not what I want to do. Bring your graphics back in.
Let's bring up those wind speeds again. I'm going to hop through some of these comments here real quick and just break down what we're expecting. When is it all supposed to start? That's a great question, Shalahan. Shalon, I am so
for him. You know what?
I'm so sorry.
Talking nonstop all morning because of this storm.
I sure have. I've said a lot of different Maine towns, you guys, and I'm so sorry for mispronouncing your name, Shalon. But anyway, Shalon, I love the name. Beautiful. Yes. When is it all supposed to start? 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. tomorrow. In fact, I'm going to put a little banner in here.
Good idea.
Worst WX 6 a.m. 6 p.m.
By the way, quick note, we're going to be live. We have a special show tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. We usually don't have a morning weekend show. We have special coverage. So we're going to be live, us and Dan Lamparello, 6 a.m. CBS 13, and then from 8 to 10 on Fox 23. So make sure and tune in for the latest.
Yes, absolutely. We'll be here tomorrow morning covering it all. We'll have lots of live coverage all across the state. Definitely going to be cool live shots of those crazy waves that we're going to see along the coastline. Bangor area. Yes, Dan, here you see 40 plus mile per hour winds. Missed what you said about Lewiston. That's totally fine, Alicia. 40 plus mile per hour winds. Good chance of some power outages there. Charge those devices. Just make sure you're prepared to not have power tomorrow afternoon. Bowdoin area, very similar. In fact, probably a little worse. Bowdoin's a lot closer to the coastline, and it is more towards the mid-coast. So yes, very likely, Brianna, that you're going to see some power outages and at least some strong winds approaching 50 miles per hour there tomorrow afternoon. Alexis, I have a class in Belfast Saturday. Will it be safe to stay in a hotel located near the water? The good news is not a ton of storm surge is expected here.
Okay.
There's not going to be a ton of a coastal flooding, that sort of thing. And all hotels, I would assume, have generators of some sort.
Yep, my thoughts too.
Probably going to be fine. Alexis, I would say, probably going to be a really cool weekend for you. A very interesting one, but I would say you will be okay. Listen to the hotel. If they're telling you our hotel is going to flood, maybe not stay there.
Yes.
But
maybe check in, call ahead and just see.
Yeah, call ahead. Maybe they're not doing, I don't think they would cancel anything, but you never know. How long will these speeds be sustained for? Okay, worst winds are likely to be 5 to 6 a.m. or so through about 1 to 2 p.m.
Okay.
So mostly the morning is most impacted by the winds and early afternoon.
Okay.
By the late afternoon and evening, dying down a little bit. Hopefully we can get some crews already out there by that point.
Right.
Starting to
I think so.
restore some of that power. All right. Wells likely to also see some very strong winds, although on the very dry side of the storm in Wells, hardly any rain for you tomorrow. The waves, probably the biggest threat there. In fact, the far western portion of Maine, all the way down to about Portsmouth, might avoid some of the worst impacts in terms of power outages and that sort of thing, because it's just going to be a little bit too far away to really get the worst of that weather. Sebago area, I mentioned this yesterday in a Facebook Live. Sebago Lake's going to help to make those winds a little stronger. The winds have a lot of open space to blow over. So I know Sebago, and not everyone in Sebago lives right on the lake, but just something of note. And yes, there will likely be at least some scattered outages up there. Very windy here in Plymouth. That's your mother.
Reporting from Plymouth.
Yes, thank you so much, Rosie.
She lives right near the ocean.
Yep.
So yeah, it's going to be some tough waves.
And Massachusetts is going to get it first. So they're going to see the tropical storm conditions beginning later today, and that's going to spread northward from here. So what Rosie's seeing in Plymouth right now, that's coming to our way later on.
Sorry, not
today.
A beach day, Mom.
Yeah. Unless you live way down east, we'll see some big waves. We'll see some big winds down east, by far getting the worst impacts here. Brunswick, wind gusts, you're right on the line between 50 plus and 40 plus. I'd say right around 50 probably for those peak winds. Great news. I think Alicia.
Yes.
Your name is
I was going to
there.
bring this up too. So
yes, no major flooding concerns. And I'm going to try to get to the rainfall graphic here. Well, first of all, here's the winds. Notice them picking up 7 a.m. tomorrow. Here's some of our wind speeds.
And we'll be live during this time.
Yes, we will be live during this time. But Alicia, no major flood concerns, at least. I think you are down in Rockland, I want to say. So many different comments. It's hard to remember where everyone's from. But Alicia, depending on where you are, very likely not a flood concern, but winds peaking late morning tomorrow, right around lunchtime or very late in the morning. Notice that 60 showing up in Rockland.
I know, exactly. That's exactly what you've been talking about. Jennifer, good idea to bring in the patio furniture.
And Brandon also making a great point here. Do not touch down to power lines. I'm sure most people know that by common sense, but again, a great reminder for people. Yes, time to bring in the patio furniture. Exactly, Jennifer. Sustained winds in Wiscasset area, sustained probably around 35 to 40, gusting potentially up to 50. Jackman area missing out on a lot of this. Not going to be too bad up there. Yes, Yarmouth will be fine for church on Sunday. Hopefully there's power.
Gorgeous on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous day, 80 and sunny. So
it won't be uncomfortable if they could probably still have church if there's no power. Yeah, my guess, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
as long as the pastor can speak.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
So yeah, Connie says, ready, bring it on. That's right, Connie. Nice. You're prepared. We're prepared here. We're going to keep you covered through the rest of this storm. I did want to get to those rainfall totals if we can really quickly, just to show you guys. Of course, this is also a huge concern here. The waves, 10 to 20 foot waves along the coastline. I bet we're going to have a lot of spectators again.
Yeah.
I want to stress
tide, 12:47.
12:47 p.m. is high tide tomorrow. I'm sure there will be a lot of people wanting to see the waves. Just again, exercise extreme caution.
Keep some distance if you can.
Exactly right. Yes, just stay far back from the ocean. You don't want to mess around with these waves. They'll have debris in them. They'll have rocks and wood and who knows what else in there, because the ocean's just going to be so churned up. So yeah, definitely.
And we'll have sky cams and we'll have coverage from the coast. So maybe you just watch us and
sounds like
don't
a
have to worry about it.
Cozy day tomorrow. Just cozy up. Hope a tree doesn't fall down right next to your house or something. And then look at this Sunday morning. Waves are much calmer. So
amazing.
Sunday is just going to reset everything. It's going to be really nice. A lot of people, again, might be surprised about how dry this storm is going to be. If you're even Rockland, not going to get a ton of rain from this. Rockland eastward, though, that's where we do have a somewhat higher potential of seeing heavier rainfall totals and some flooding here. But for most of us, notice that very dry corridor in western Maine. Portland,
Yeah.
less than 0.2 inches of rain. I mean, yeah, the rain's not a big concern, which is really good news. We've had our fair share of floods this
I
summer.
know. No one wants flooding, especially if we have to deal with everything else on top of that. So
Exactly. Well, yeah. So again, we'll keep you posted all through the next couple of days here. Just stay tuned, everybody. We'll get through this. And
yes.
Again, we got great weather to look forward to next
I know,
week.
I'm so excited.
Hopefully, I'm hoping for the best for everybody.
Yes.
Hoping for no widespread outages tomorrow, and if we do see them, hopefully at least we can get things restored quickly, because there's a lot of people working to get that done. A lot of people working long hours this weekend.
Yep. A reminder, we're going to be live tomorrow morning, special edition of Good Day Maine from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on CBS 13 and from 8 to 10 a.m. on Fox 23. Please tune in, join us. We're going to be all over the state covering the conditions, checking on power outages, checking in with CMP on progress, all of that, roads closed, everything that's going to happen. So we'll see you then, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see you then. Stay safe, everybody.
Bye.